Self-checkout may save time at the store, but a growing number of shoppers admit they've also used it to steal. Among Americans who've used self-checkout, 27% said they've intentionally taken an item without scanning it, up from 15% in 2023, according to a recent Lending Tree survey. Millennials, 41%, and Gen Z adults, 37%, were the most likely to admit to stealing at self checkout. While only 2% of baby boomers said the same, men, 38%, were more than twice as likely as women, 16%, to say they've done it. When asked why they stole, 47% said the current financial climate has made it difficult to afford essentials. Nearly as many, 46%, cited higher prices, including increases they attributed to tariffs, and many, 39%, said today's prices feel unfair or too high in general. Even though people know that stealing is wrong and most understand the risk they're taking, tough times require tough choices, and lots of people are clearly willing to take a risk, Lending Tree's chief consumer analyst Matt Schultz said in the report. About a third of those who've stolen said they don't feel remorseful. and a similar share, 35%, see self-checkout as unpaid work, so taking small items feels like compensation. Interestingly, those with household incomes of 100,000 or more were the most likely, 40%, to say they've intentionally taken an item without scanning it. Just 17% of those making less than 30,000 said the same. And then they're mentioning how self-checkouts have become common, and places like Dollar General removed them from 12,000 stores because of the shrinking of their products. You have Target rolling out more and more of these, but they have the caveat of 10 items or less. And then Amazon had the cashierless just walk out technology before tossing that out too. And then you have most of the respondents saying they like self-checkout machines for their speed and convenience. And when I think of reasons for why I would not steal, it comes down to two things. One, I don't enjoy the prospect of taking something that doesn't belong to me. I have many times felt that things cost too much, and I always get around it by simply just not going and getting the thing if I can. And again, most time when I think something's too expensive, it has to do with like some article of clothing or just some other non-essential thing. The other part is that like I know my fate, right? I know what has happened to me, what is going to happen to me, and many times I have felt there's been a sort of karmic antagonism that I get when I am doing something that is supposedly seen as the right thing to do, and then you still get punished for it. Like when I was talking about having a job where you sit there and come in whenever these bastards want, and then they reward you after a year by cutting your hours off to almost nothing, and living with somebody and paying all the money that they want until you can't afford it anymore, and they're completely fine with you being on the streets for weeks. Yeah, I believe in the mantra that no good deed goes unpunished. That if you do what society equates to being the right thing, you will, in many cases, receive some kind of blowback for doing that. And if I were to do something that I know is wrong, right, like steal, if I were caught, I would obviously be upset by that and whatever, but I would be more upset with myself because I would feel that I should know better than to think with the luck I have that I could get away with something like that. But I understand, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the cost of essential goods is not ridiculous within the United States. We talked about how apartment buildings on average across the US are like 1,600, 1,700, and if you come over here it's like 2 grand, 500, right? Then people in their different, I don't have this, but some people have car notes which on average are like $700. And this means that no matter where you live, if you're renting an apartment by yourself, living somewhere, right? And having a damn car with, that you don't own, along with insurance, you're looking at spending anywhere from over 2 grand to possibly over 3 grand without even factoring in food, which is also going up and increasing. And what I find really interesting, because people always say, "Oh, just get another job, just get another job," right? But what I think is really fascinating about this, because we talked about the lady in Connecticut that was making, her and her husband, 100 grand a year, and they were having to rely on food banks because the amount of money that they were pulling in, so much of it was going to, paying for their kids to go to school and insurance and all the other monthly expenses that they had. So they had to rely on food banks to not be charged to have something to eat, which is disgusting, right? In terms of like, you can make that much money and still not be financially secure. But again, what I find really interesting is where the article mentioned, they start breaking down some of these statistics, like some of these different groups that are admitting to having stolen stuff. The people who make over 100,000, right, stealing and accounting for close to, what is it? Yeah, 40%. I feel like part of that is them admitting, like, there are people who are less wealthy or not as financially secure are probably less willing to admit they've done it because they're more afraid of what could be done to them, in terms of retaliation. Like, if you're making 100 grand plus a year and they go, "Oh, well, we caught you. Now you have to pay this fee or this fine for stealing this item," you'll probably pay it and then that'll be it. And then, it's kind of just like, whatever, just swat it away. So some of them might actually be afraid to answer. That might be a factor in why you get this over sampling of people that make that much. I'm looking at this right here. So you had 47% who said the current financial climate has made it difficult to afford essentials, which I agree with. And then you have the 46% who cited higher prices as the reason, and then the ones who talked about today's prices feel unfair or too high in general. All of this I agree with. All of it has to do with things costing too much and people feeling like when they go to these self-checkout lines, right, normally they don't have anyone, they might have like an employee there, but besides that, you really are kind of like not regulated. So you might just go, okay, well, nobody's looking, maybe I can just get away with this extra bag of chips. I go to Ralph's pretty frequently. They have cameras, right, that will like check the number of items that you have in your cart or in your hand, and then if you don't scan it, it'll play the thing back and be like, "Hey, you didn't scan this." It won't say anything directly to you, but I have had that happen where I'll have some stuff and then it'll play the film back, and then it's like a manual system, so sometimes it messes up or thinks you didn't scan something or were purposefully being deceitful. It's goofy. But my favorite part is where they said the third of those who've stolen said they don't feel remorseful and that they see self-checkout as unpaid work. So taking small items feels like compensation. I mean, if you go up to some of these self-checkout lines, you have to bag your stuff yourself, and then you also have to pay. And this has been my biggest pet peeve with these different places. I feel like if someone is paying 20, 30, 50, 70, $100 for food, the bags that they need to take their stuff should be free. I really believe that. They were talking, "Oh, it's just 10 cents." Like, yeah, but why do I have to give you an additional dollar for some little crappy plastic bags that would be covered by the cost of what I'm buying? That's like, that to me, that's the kind of stuff where when people say things feel unfair, I can't argue with them. Like, I can't understand why they would charge me an extra dollar for bags that would, again, clearly be covered by the sheer cost of what I'm buying, other than just being greedy, just trying to squeeze more coins out of me. Like nothing. There's never a fee too tiny for them to extract from you, and it's disgusting. But I always think about how you have a lot of people like when we hear about the lootings and the rioting and oh they stole sneakers, and it's like, really think about this. If you go to a fast food place, we talked about how places like Burger King have the $16 burger, places like McDonald's are they have the little $5 menu where they make the burgers so damn small you got to buy like 4 or 5 of them to get a full meal, which is already like $15 or $20 for like 8 of them. And then I was talking about how everywhere you go, and then even in the market, right, they sell these containers of chicken where it's like 8 pieces of it, but that's still like $10. So anywhere you go, you should expect to spend anywhere from $10 to $20 on average just to eat for the day. And a lot of people, right, are unable to do that either because they can't find a damn job like some of us, or the other things they have to pay for are so overwhelming that they just can't take the extra headache of being charged what they think are unreasonable prices just to eat. And I said this before, we're not even talking about, some 4-course meal or going to some fancy restaurant. These are fast food places and the market. And when they mentioned the tariffs, I mean, hey, I can't combat that argument. The prices of everything keep going up, and I think it really says something where people are stealing food. Like they're stealing food, and they're so confident and brazen about stealing food that they admit it in an article. They're like, yeah, I shoplift. Yeah, what of it? Like they don't really see anything wrong with doing that or admitting it. You saw some of them who said they're not remorseful. And the problem again is like, I want to tell you, just like with that whole thing with the healthcare CEO, I always try to say, listen, I like to follow the law. I like to never try to say, oh, well, people should do this thing that's illegal or wrong, again, morally. But when things are so damn expensive that, again, you can piss out thousands of dollars just to have somewhere to lay your head at night, just to drive a damn car, and hundreds just to eat, just to have like food for 4 weeks. I can't tell people that they're wrong for being sick of that and looking for any small way to not get screwed as much as they have been, for the past several years, if not longer. And it's just like with the CEO. It's like I don't support that shooting we had last year, but I can't. I'm not going to pretend that people aren't right to be sick of the healthcare system over here. So it's just, I wouldn't recommend it, but I get it. I know it's very difficult financially for a lot of people, and it's just a rotten society. It's a rotten society where you go into a fast food place and they charge you like you're walking into, again, some 5-star restaurant or 4-star restaurant, I should say. It's a rotten society when you go to the market and you buy like 3 bags of chips and they're $12. I mean, hell, I went to the gas station to get a refill on a soda. I used to be able to get a refill, which is where they just pour the soda in the. I mean, I don't need to explain what refills are, but you used to be able to get one of these for 90 cents. Now it's a dollar. Sometimes it's $1.65. Sometimes it's $1.87. It really depends on who's in there. But the point is that they have literally taken the act of just pouring more soda into a cup and try to double the price of it. And all that did was make me cut back on how often I would go. I used to go twice a day, right? Once in the early afternoon was like really hot, and then at night just to have something to sip on. But now I only go once. So they're not actually making really any more money from me. It's just my way of responding to that, what I feel is a very extreme increase for much of nothing, is to simply just stop going as often. And I hate to tell people that. It's like, should we all just stop eating? Should that be the solution? Just, hey, okay, it's supposed to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I already skipped breakfast, so I need to just eat once in the evening or afternoon. So, like, don't eat from the time you wake up in the morning to let's around 5 or 6 o'clock. Then you can eat, and then we'll repeat the same. I mean, what is that? But again, it's like, people will call someone crazy for making suggestions like that, which I'm not actually suggesting anyone starve themselves. But no one ever looks at the cost of stuff, the lack of available jobs, or just the overall, low pay compared, like the wages that stay the same, but the prices that go up, and never says, yeah, I get where people are so damn tired of paying for all this overpriced crap that they might start shoplifting, even to save a few dollars by taking a bag of chips or, some other small item. So again, I don't support people doing this, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend I don't understand.